Hello, my Astro family. This is Lada from astrolada.com with your May 2020 horoscopes. Yay, I'm back, feeling a bit better. And I have invited this month evolutionary astrologer Bryan to help me to lead you through the spiritual and karmic meaning of this month. And I will cover the more practical, mundane day-to-day influence of the month. And Bryan is the most spectacular astrologer I've seen. The first week we introduced him, he had 500 individual orders, and they have carried on like that ever since. So he broke the record with us, and you'll see why. He's amazing. So I'm very excited to present you the May 2020 horoscopes. And by the way, on May 16th, Bryan is making his first webinar for astrolab.com for our audience, which is only $63 down from $90, on past life astrology, how to read the past lives in your horoscope. And I think it will be our most successful webinar to date as well, because the topic is fascinating. So let's begin. Scorpio, Sun, Moon, or Rising, May 2020, and Bryan will lead you through the evolutionary and karmic lessons that we've been having for the last year and a half that you're wrapping up now, Scorpios.
Thanks, Lada. Hello, Scorpios. Glad I can't see you, or I might get scared by your hypnotic gaze, you know. You don't look at people, but into people. Some people like to be looked into. Yeah. So anyways, it's always good to start off with a little astrology joke. I like to poke fun at all the symbols.
I love your sense of humor.
So let's look at the nodes. Now we have the south node of the moon and the north node of the moon. And we have that in our own personal birth chart. And if you want to get to know your own personal nodes and understand the karma associated with your nodes, understand your past life, your karmic sort of unfolding lesson plan, I invite you to check out my my class I'm doing May 16th about reading your own past life. But today we're looking at the transiting nodes, where the nodes are in the sky today. And for the last year and a half, they've been going through Capricorn and Cancer. Okay, that axis has been so pivotal to our evolution of humanity, really. And it's about to change signs from Capricorn Cancer into Sagittarius Gemini. So we're going to be leaving the earth water and entering fire and air. We're going to be leaving the more muddy soup of the kinetic blast. Yeah. So there's going to be a lot more freedom, I think, on the horizon, which should feel good to a lot of you. Now, when looking through the lens of evolutionary astrology, we always want to try to understand the symbolism, try to understand the astrological weather currently filtering through us so that we can use it proactively, constructively, instead of just letting us run through us randomly, so that we can grow faster. That's really the philosophy behind this approach, is that we're here to grow and evolve, and that's how I read the symbols. So when looking at the south node, north node, we're looking at the collective karma, trying to correct the teeter-totter between this polarity point, which has been way more heavy on the Capricorn side, not only because the south node's in Capricorn, but because of Saturn and Pluto and Jupiter. You know, a lot of planets, even Mars just flew through there. A lot of Capricorn energy. Okay. And now we're still trying to get more to Capricorn to find the balance point. And for you Scorpios out there, especially Scorpio risings, this is going to apply to moons and sun sign Scorpio as well, especially Scorpio rising people. Your south node of the moon in Capricorn has been in your third house. North node in Cancer has been in your ninth house. So third house is the house of it's a couple layers of meaning, but the first one I want to start with is the house of the immediate and the emergent. Okay. Think of driving down the 405 in LA when life is normal and it's, you know, clogged. Now it's vacant, but which is kind of eerie when you look at pictures of the 405 in LA. But let's say you're in heavy traffic and you're late for an appointment, you got to drive really fast. And You got to be really careful not to, play bumper cars. Yeah. You can't take your eyes off the road. That's the feeling of third house when it's heavily stimulated. Lots of busyness, lots of spinning in circles, potentially. A lot of distraction. It's also the house of learning on one level. Capricorn's the sign of hard work. Saturn is, about accomplishing a great work. You've been having Saturn in this house as well. So maybe you've been, going back to school or going to school or learning something. Maybe it's something more informal. Yeah. So perhaps there's been a lot of hard work around learning. That's another component of it too. But as we dig down to really, in my opinion, the core layer of the third house is the house of perception. Most people know it as the house of communication. But underlying speech and talk, we have thoughts. Underlying thought, we have perception. So it's really how we perceive reality. And you've probably heard the phrase, we look at the world through rose-colored glasses. Now, as a Scorpio, you definitely do not look at the world through rose-colored glasses. Let me just get that out of the way. But we're all looking at the world through some kind of glasses. Yeah. So the potential of the negative side of Capricorn in the third house is to be viewing the world through, let's say, Capricornian glasses, which is to say very earthy and realistic. But if that dips into Shadowland, which is not a prediction for your behavior, just a description of the shadow. If it goes into Shadowland, it may even go into pessimism. Yeah. And remember, Scorpio, X-ray goggles. You see hard truths. Also, if you don't like the truth you're seeing and you're pretty emotional about it, which Scorpios can be, they can be pretty stormy inside. It can lead, again, shadow side of Scorpio, to moodiness, brooding, if we think about it too much, those hard truths, the pessimism of the hard truths. And this can create a more Capricornian, let's say, glum seriousness for some people. And of course, there's plenty to be serious about. Plenty of pessimism out there right now, too. Okay. So when looking at the north node of the moon, we're going to try to jump on the teeter-totter as much as we can. And of course, Saturn's now in Aquarius. So a little bit of the weight has been lightened there, but we're trying to jump on this this Cancer north node in your ninth house. And Cancer is about healing. It's about self-nurturing. Now, third house dynamics defined by the immediate and the emergent can be a little hard on the nervous system, to be honest. So needing some healing, needing some mental healing, needing some soul healing too. But going in a more ninth house direction will help to cultivate that, to balance out the teeter-totter. Now, what ninth house and third house have in common, all opposite symbols, whether they're signs or houses, are really opposite sides of the same coin. What they both have in common is learning. They just have a different way of going about it, different directions. Yeah. So your path of healing, finding that balance point, it's really about shaking up established patterns of routine. Okay, established patterns of behavior, as we kind of spin in circles through how we perceive reality in our third house. Wanting to think differently, wanting to think more big picture. Ninth house, the house of travel, the house of education, the house of metaphysical inquiry, house of religion, higher-minded philosophy. So the goal here is to more align your behavior with cosmic principles. If you're feeling a little bit negative, perhaps a little sprinkling of pessimism because you see reality so clearly. Try to take the angel's perspective, the 30,000-foot view, what's really going on here. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Going on the philosophical quest. And this is supported strongly by metaphysical inquiry, as I was saying. And this actually makes me think of a book. And look it up on Amazon, see if you like the reviews. As most people know what it is, it's or heard of it before. It's called The Alchemist.
Ah,
Paulo Coelho. Yeah. Excellent book. And it's about the philosophical quest, the spiritual quest. And that book so deeply resonates with this ninth house, or books like it. There's many of them. So broadening your horizons beyond the spinning of too many plates, juggling too many balls, thinking negatively perhaps, and sinking your teeth into a belief system that's even more optimistic than the one you currently have. Okay. Even if you're not dipping into pessimism land, which is a potential of the structure as I outlined it, even if you're not doing that, you want to get something even more optimistic, something even more big picture, so you can see reality more clearly. And so ultimately, so that you can learn. Your perception of reality is being called to shift. And the more you do that, the more you heal and the more you grow. And if that's why we're here, which is a common philosophy we find all over the world as to why we reincarnate, then that ninth house direction is giving us some critical clues on how you can go in that direction and accelerate your learning curve tremendously and heal from this sort of hard on the nervous system, Capricorn in the third house dynamic, really you've been experiencing for the last couple of years, even beyond a year and a half, as Pluto and Pluto and Saturn have been in this house. So that's the take on the nodes from the evolutionary astrology perspective. And of course, we can tie that in with the rest of the planets, the music of the spheres. And Lada is prepared to talk about the retrograde planets, which
thank
is
you,
going to
Bill.
give us another key piece of the puzzle. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Bryan. It was what you were saying was so beautiful. Like, I don't want to do my piece. you took people, you took Scorpios down to the ninth house. You revealed them this beautiful story, the journey of their soul. Now, and I'm gonna drag them down into the third house with immediate realities and what needs to be taken care of in your daily every life with the
Life
three
is complex.
planets.
Yeah.
Bring them back. So Scorpio's 3 planets are going retrograde, which means that things either can start going back to how they were. You know, retrograde is to go back, and a lot of us will be returning to things from the past and trying to pick up the broken pieces of our lives and try and fix them somehow if we can. But it's never the same. You can never fully go back to how it was, because even retrograde planets, they make a loop. They don't go exactly on the same path back. So yeah, you'll be kind of, all of us collectively will be slowing down and saying, what the hell just happened? And let me think deeper what is happening here. And Venus is going retrograde in your 8th house of the occult and research. So a lot of Scorpio maybe already have your tinfoil hat on, but a lot of them will start digging even deeper with information. Venus is going retrograde in Gemini, the sign of studying, you know, and getting new information. And in the 8th house of questioning, research, what did it just happen? Is this true? You know, is the occult, trying to find out secrets, trying to find out conspiracies, trying to find out what's beneath the surface. And not only about what's happening with the world, you can be doing this with your life as well, and those around you. And especially with your partners, because Venus, that's going retrograde, is the ruler of your 7th house of relationships, going retrograde in the 8th house. So you might be questioning, maybe becoming more like trying to figure out something that's happening, maybe speaking on very deep topics with your partners, trying to dig deep into their psyche and understand what's happening with them, or maybe just going a bit paranoid and kind of following secretly their devices and checking up their phones. You know, this is an extreme manifestation, can happen. But the 8th house, this has this obsessive uh, uh, reading between the line of everything energy and between the words of whatever everyone's telling you and questioning what they're telling you, which is Scorpio is comfortable with that energy. But For some of you, it might be like a reversal, a bit of a crisis in relationships, questioning it, especially in matters concerning the deep intimacy and the trust issue in relationships, because the rule of the seventh house relationships going retrograde in the eighth house of sudden reversals and secrets and deep intimacy, and how easily can you open up yourself to another and embrace them without feeling that you'll be hurt. So you might want to speak, and you might start such conversations with your business partners or marriage partners or committed boyfriend, girlfriend. And in some extreme cases, it can indicate ending of a relationship if no compromise can be achieved or no good conversation on those topics can be achieved. But that's very extreme cases. You have to have other indications in your horoscope as well. For many, it can just be Venus yearns to, when it's, through communication in Gemini, to rebalance and restore harmony in your deep intimacy and your deep bonding and trust with another person. But the eighth house is also your finances, business with business partners or mutual trust funds that you've put with other people, or your partner's resources and your family resources together as a couple. So there might be some little need to revise those, for the next 40 days, to revise those finances and resources, to communicate over how to restructure them, how to make them more harmonious, how to balance your books, basically, again. And that's also the house of, and so I would advise you, don't take financial risks with your partners. Don't start something totally new. For example, say taking your money from a trust fund and putting it fully, or your pension, and deciding to do something crazy with it, because you have to be careful when a planet is retrograde. Mostly do your research. You'd probably want to do something different with your money, mutual money, finances, resources, insurances, inheritances, when Venus turns direct in your eighth house. But the retrograde period is like you're starting to question, is that the best way we can use the money of our business together, or our partner's money, or or our mutual resources? Is the best way to invest it? And you go and start researching alternative ways for that, but don't yet pull the trigger. And when from June onwards, towards the end, when Venus turned direct, that would be the ideal time. So it can destabilize finances for some of you. Unfortunately, retrograde planets in the eighth house, and that's somehow connected either to taxes, to insurances, to inheritances, or to resources connected to clients or business partners. So, you might just decide, I have to restructure that, change it, make it more harmonious, not more, in some way. But also there is a positive side. It can mean you've been waiting for some money for some time that's owed to you from some clients, or your husband or wife has been waiting for some check to come to them, or you've been waiting for money from the IRS or the tax services, and Venus goes retrograde in your eighth house, and they can come, because actually now, for the previous 2 months, things were delayed. And now things can come back to you that you've been waiting for. You can restart doing your taxes. You can restart on something that you've already been doing, which is connected to mutual resources, finances, insurances, inheritances, some mutual financial goals. But again, it's also risky because these things are not stable. And you're going to have also Saturn and Saturn going retrograde in your fourth house for the first time in 30 years. This can indicate having to take on extra responsibilities for the next 2 months only, because it comes out of your fourth house, connected to family, home. They can be some, especially for early born Scorpios, those that are the October Scorpios, the first 3 days, or those who have the first 5 degrees, Sun, Moon, or Ascendant in Scorpio, they can feel the strongest. Not all Scorpios, to some extent the others as well, but it's more like an inkling they'll get for what will come in the next year, 2021, the latest Scorpios, and 2022. But it might require you to to take on more responsibilities, as I said, with home, with family, with property. Some complications can come with matters concerning either paying mortgages or paying off homes, or especially in the current environment, you have to be more careful when it comes to your property, to your home. It can also indicate restructuring something about your home, trying to fix something that's broken, or that's too old, for example. And if you're in any career that is Saturnian, that's fourth house career, like real estate of any sort, this can be kind of like having to put more efforts to make things work in that area, in that such kind of business, having to restructure something about your business to make it more efficient in the long run. Sometimes people need to take care of family, of parents, and such when Saturn goes retrograde in the fourth house. But it's only the early degrees, and I think not many Scorpios will feel that. But there is some change and shift in your home and family in a different direction from what it has been till now, and property. And then Jupiter is going retrograde in your third house, and it's the only planet there. From the visible planets now, Saturn is out, the South Node is gradually starting to move out. So it's the first time Jupiter goes retrograde in your third house for the last 12 years. And now it's going to give you, I don't know, I think it can actually has some kind of a corrective, in a positive way, influence on difficult third house matters that have been happening in your life for the last 2 years. Like if you've had, especially with Saturn in the South Node there, if you've been having problems and complications in relationships with relatives, with siblings, with neighbors, in your local community, with small group environments. In Vedic astrology, third house rules your colleagues, actually, the people in your everyday environment, and even friends that are not friends that like blood bonded for life, but more like people you hang out on a daily basis, you drink your coffee with, you chit chat with. So if you've been having such complications or even disconnection with such people, now Jupiter going retrograde can try and heal that and connect you to such people and try to help you see the higher perspective about those difficult situations with such people, alienation even with some of them, and to heal it, and if not, to release them and let them go without resentment, but with some kind of a philosophical higher perspective. On the more material level, it can mean you going back to learning something that you dropped, and some skill that you have to, and that you're going to actually, I think, find quite joyful, because it is Jupiter after all, and Jupiter does things with joy, with meaning, with purpose. Picking up such skills, picking up such sorry, I lost my train of thought. Also, third house is administrative work, papers, documents. If some paper or emails were lost, you can start finding that when Jupiter goes retrograde, or going back to fill in some documents that you needed to do earlier, but you were interrupted, and completing those. So a lot of administrative work that you have to catch up on, for example. A lot of commercial business activity work is the third house of business, like Bryan said, everyday things that you might have to go back and do. But of course, don't forget that the North Node continues to be still in the ninth house. Take a break and jump from time to time into that higher perspective, because this third house continues to be busy. And with Jupiter there, it requires you, it will require you to go and review some things that need your immediate attention: papers, documents, communication, miscommunications, and reconnecting with people on a daily level. But the bigger goal, it's always the nodes. And like Bryan said, it's pointing towards the ninth house. Squeeze the last, how did you call it?
Yes, wring out as much evolutionary potential as we can in this last hurrah right before it changes signs. And read The Alchemist. That'll help a lot.
Wonderful. And as I've been seeing that the North Node in Cancer, even though it's at the last degree, I started seeing it in clients and lives of people around me just now. Till now, it's almost like it was stifled. It could not manifest, this North Node in Cancer. So we have literally just the last 1 or 2 months of it being in Cancer that it can manifest, because not so many planets are in Capricorn anymore, giving priority to the South Node. And so now is the time you can actually really see the influence of this ninth house, South and North Node in Cancer. So thank you so much, Bryan. I can't wait to join you on the 16th of May on the past life the astrology of past lifetimes 4-hour webinar. We're going to teach us how to see our past life stories in the horoscope, and it's 30% discounted, only $63 till the 16th of May. Looking forward to have you again here, Bryan. I always love to pick up your extraordinary mind and extraordinary knowledge. I think sometimes I need to play the flute when you're talking, because it's almost like a story. It's wisdom from a wise man.
I think that's some like crackling fire sound effects. You could turn it into like an ASMR, you know.
Exactly. That's exactly what you should do. That we should do some retreat in the desert with you sometime, and someone will bring the flute and we'll do it.
That'd be fun. I'd be into that.
Thank you so much, and have a wonderful, interesting May. Bye bye.
Bye now.